So let's show how to create a 3D model of utilities. This is mainly going to be done through extract from graphics. So before we get started, I am in a utility basemap file. So you want to make sure you're in a utility basemap file. And I drew in a bunch of utility graphics. These are just microStation line strings to kind of help showcase the workflow. If you look, these are in a reference. I drew these in a different file and referenced them in. But nonetheless, so what we want to do is we want to basically create these utilities in 3D. We get them in 3D. We could do things like clash detection if we want to show them on cross sections, or potentially profiles if you need to do that for certain plans. So let's go over the process. It actually is relatively easy. So what we're going to do is up here and extract from graphics. Now, again, just like before in the previous videos, the first time you do anything with drainage utilities, it's going to want to create that drainage utilities project. So we'll hit yes, and we'll have to restart the tool. When you hit that little create project, it doesn't actually keep you in the tool. So in here, what we're going to do is we're going to extract by utility filter. So if we take a quick look, we do have a filter group specifically for all utilities. So you can see here's the different filters for each of those different utilities that we have. If we were to take a look at the filters, the main thing takeaways is the default depth. So what is that default depth of that utility? That is going to draw that in below the surface. What feature definition is it going to put it on? So there's the feature definition, and then the filter describes how it's finding it. So it's pretty much off of the level. So if it finds that level, then it's going to extract to this feature with this depth, right? And it's going to follow the surface. All right. So as a reference in the training guide, chapter 900 on drainage utilities, I do have this little table in there. That's just a quick little reference so you can see the different default depths I did for each of the utility categories here. Okay. So really that's just, when you're using this utility filter, it's got to have some kind of default. So after you extract it, you can go through and change that depth if you want to change that approximate depth, as well as the actual size. So granted, for some of these utilities like telecom, you're just gonna leave it on the 2-inch diameter and not worry about it. But things like water lines, where you might actually have that data for the size, you will want to make sure you set the size correctly, right? So before I go over the using the utility filter, let's go over the selection method and how that's working. So instead of using a filter, you could say, you know what, I just want to select what I want and tell it to do what I want, right? So instead of the filter just kind of bulk doing everything, you're doing it more of a manual approach. So what this is letting you do is say, okay, here's my selection. What offset do I want? What feature definition do I want to use? What size pipe do I want it? So this is a telecom fiber optic line, which I think I didn't actually place one of those. Let me switch to just telecom. So if I wanted to just extract this by selection, I'll change my mode to selection, and I will locate the elements. So I could locate more of the like elements there if I wanted to. I'll hit reset when I'm done selecting elements. Now it's saying, okay, what model or terrain model do you want to use for this vertical offset, right? So you can reset to use active, or you can select the actual surface you want it to be based upon. What kind of offset do you want? Maybe I only want -2. Do I want a trench? No. And it will go through and create that utility. So let me open up the 3D view so you can kind of see this. So there it is. It extracted that in 3D. I can click on this pipe, open up the profile of this pipe, and you can kind of see there it's following the surface, offsetted at that depth that we defined. If I take a look at the properties, you can come in and change this offset at a later time if you want to. On my next video, I'll go over more with editing profiles and making custom profiles, so check that next video out for things like that. So let's use the filter now. So extract from graphic. This time we'll switch it over to utility filter. So I'll switch it to all utilities. Okay, you'll notice that a lot of things gray out because the filter is handling all that. So I'm just going to click to accept these parameters and let it go through and extract all of these utilities out. And it's going to ask for what surface do you want to use to do those offsets for the depths of these utilities. So I can select it, or I can just reset for the active terrain. And no, I don't want a trench. And it will go through and extract the utilities. Alright, and you can see that it extracted all those different utilities. If it's through a reference, then you most likely want to turn off those graphics that were used to extract. So come in here and get rid of those. As well as you might want to turn off the 3D ones just so you only see it in 2D. Just to kind of give it a better picture, I guess. Alright, so let's take a little closer look here. So if we look at the 3D file, you see all of those got extracted. And let me rotate around. Kind of see they roughly are following a terrain. It's hard to tell. So we can easily come in here and select these utilities, especially more of the ones that you probably want to make sure you get the right sizes. Is the water one, if it is supposed to be a different size, make sure you change that. Okay, so that is as simple as it is to extract graphics. So now, why would you use the selection method versus the filter method? So the selection method is going to let you set the size, set the depth for you, whereas the filter option is just taking defaults, but the filter option lets you extract pretty much all of them at once, whereas the selection method, it's each type you have to do separately and change the settings. So that is how you extract utilities.